Everywhere you look, there seems to be more rules and regulations, what we can and can't eat, and living to excess. Our freedom of expression has been curbed, controlled, nudged and monitored. This palette reacts to the prohibition culture that comes from a growing need to reduce the costly consequences of negative lifestyle choices. These colours push the boundaries, giving an indulgent escape from regulation and convention. Head outside your comfort zone and explore colours such as Oxford Terrace and Wood End.
Key colours, blush pinks. So I think that's quite a big influence in trying to kind of draw on people's interest.
Leave the rules of the city behind and taste Martin Borough. And there we have our forbidden palette. Obviously pretty much purples and reds. We did have purple in our palettes last year, but interesting, they were actually blue-based purples. This year we're seeing a lot more of the red base, and we're also seeing a lot of combinations, especially in the textiles, of reds and purples together, which, as we all know, work beautifully. So just to give you a feel for this palette, everywhere we look, obviously rules and regulations are just part of our society today. I did mention we often attend the Future Laboratory seminars, and one of the things that we really learnt, this was such a powerful area that they were predicting. And I just love to quote this from Chris Sanderson from the Future Laboratory. "We have just had a decade of consensus culture in which excess was encouraged at all levels, from spending to binge drinking to luxury at its most vulgar. Many of these changes, from food bans to indulgence prohibitions, are being driven by a growing need amongst governments to reduce spends on preventative illnesses." And these are things like we hear in the media all the time, the lifestyle cancers, obviously obesity, diabetes, and just damage from smoking and drinking, obviously. And the governments are looking at pushing taxes to an all-time high. And certainly I can give you a perfect example in Melbourne very recently, or from a Victorian government perspective, the cost of a packet of cigarettes now is around $20 a packet. It really has pushed the market. A lot of people cannot physically afford to smoke anymore. It really has pushed it. And it went from around, I think, $15 or $16 a packet to $20 overnight. So it's a huge increase. And we've obviously also heard in the media all around the banning of the burqa in France recently, and obviously the Netherlands are also looking at that as well. The Future Labs certainly predict that this is just the beginning. We're going to be seeing a lot more of this sort of thing unfold over the next decade. So we'll see also voluntary and legislative changes that curtail many of the lifestyle activities we've taken for granted over many years. The other thing that they showed us during their seminar was just quite interesting, actually. From a marketing perspective, you sort of think, okay, well, governments are going to be doing these sorts of things, they're allowed to. But, how do brands do this sort of thing? Are we going to see it in our local market? And I wonder what's going to happen. They showed us an image of just a everyday bus stop, one that you'd see just downtown Auckland, standard bus stop. It's got a bench. It's got a big advertisement at the back. And this particular advertisement was selling Fitness First, the gym we all know about. Fitness First, people were standing around this bus stop, looked like anything that you'd see on any other day. The next image was quite comical because someone was sitting on the bench seat, and when they sat down on this bench seat, a huge red light came up with their scale weight on the side for everybody to see. So can you imagine sitting on this bench seat and your scale weight, God forbid, a couple of kilos over, everyone would have seen it from afar. Needless to say, I did say the first image, there was no one sitting on the seat. Obviously, they'd all done it and found out what happens. So, that's the sort of thing. It's almost marketing by guilt, making you feel bad about those extra 2 kilos. But those sorts of things we'll see more and more. Just some of the information on how we collated these reds and purples. There were some fantastic examples of the purples, but just from a lady's perspective, ladies in the room who love shoes, and I'm sure a lot of you are in my category there, shoes are really changing. Some of the interesting designs in shoes, I mean, we could have just spent days and days looking just at all the new designs. What they're doing with heels is just amazing. Just for an example, this particular shoe here, this is actually the heel of the shoe. I don't know how people walk in it, but gosh, it looked amazing. So this one here, that's the heel. So this particularly, where we thought normally would be the balance part of the shoe, is actually just in mid-air. So that's just one example. I mentioned about the importance of handcrafts when we were looking at the Lost Memoirs palette. This is a crochet handbag from Chanel. We also saw a lot of the top designer handbags in quilting, so patchwork design as well. And obviously not just in a fabric. So this almost gave a new age sort of feel to patchwork, almost sort of like in a very hard plastic. We're seeing, I mentioned about the butterflies. Here's an example of the motifs of butterflies. I do have an image which you can certainly see when you see the true storyboards at the back, but spectacles have really changed as well. And I know we've probably all seen a lot of coloured spectacles over the years, and they've been doing different colours in the rims, different colours on the arms, you know, a different colour on each arm. Well, now I've seen it all. We've got different colours on both sides of the spectacles, and they looked amazing. Haven't seen them on any person yet, but they looked great in the shops anyway. So there's a lot of really great things being done from a design perspective. I mean, purples obviously look wonderful, reds. They also look fantastic with greens, as we know. You can see a shoe here just looking beautiful. Wedges are just everywhere, and embellishments on shoes as well. And if anyone's very close to cartel, you can even get shoes, ladies' shoes, in cartel now. Here they are, in a whole range of different, you know, plastic sort of rubber material. I don't know how they'd go on a hot day. I think they'd be a bit sweaty, but anyway, they looked pretty exciting in the store. I mentioned about fish before. You know, this is a fantastic candle, and that was in the Conran store. And the fish, they had all sorts of different sizes. They had these massive candles. I don't know, I'd probably take about a year, I think, to actually burn one of them. And then they went right down, so you had the whole family, or the school of fish. So there were some great things to see. And the purples, obviously, were just everywhere, as I said, in women's fashion.